Hello and welcome to this demonstration number 5 of the BI4ALL data models. This is a summary level demonstration. My name is Peter Nolan and I'm the founder of Instant Business Intelligence. This presentation is going to be a relatively short one. We were just involved in a sales cycle with a client and they said to us, could you please give us a nice summarized message about why BI4ALL is a good idea. Love all your sales materials, but is there something a little bit more summary level? And we created this presentation for them. So the agenda for this short presentation is just some highlights of interest about the model. We'll talk about coverage, very high level. We'll talk about acquisition methods, the pricing for the data models. There must always be a slide called Why Buy BI4ALL. And in the drop-down link from this presentation, you will find links to much more detailed information about the data models. So this is the very summary level introduction. The highlights of interest, for what it is worth, there are now more than 850 tables in the BI4ALL data model with in excess of 28,000 fields. So we want you to understand that these are very substantial models. We are continuing to develop more models to support more situations as we see more situations come up. We haven't gone ahead and built data models in as a prospective thing. We wait until we see similar situations over and over again, and then we build the models for those situations rather than being fairly experimental about it. We now have a very wide library of situations covered out of the box, and we also want to make the implicit statement that the data models are intended to be customized. They're not intended to be, we install this data model and it is all things to all people, everything known to man, like SAP and Oracle applications. The idea of our data models is that you take what is there as input and then you customize it to a customized solution for any particular individual company. But the bottom line is it is now a very substantial set of data models. The coverage of the data models, the customers who can make good use of these data models are mass market companies where the company knows who the customer is. That is, you identify the customer as an individual person or company or household. Organizations where they don't really know who their customers are not particularly well suited to this set of data models. However, with the age of the internet and the subscription websites and loyalty cards and things like that, almost every company now knows who their customers were. It used to be in the retail area. There was no real ability to know who the shopper was who bought stuff. But now with loyalty cards, it's possible to know pretty much everything about the person who's shopping in your retail store. So BI4ALL now suits virtually any organization that sells to the mass market where you know who your customer is. And the base, what we call BI4ALL base, covers all the major business areas of a mass market company, including stuff such as financials and returns and things. Now on top of these base are 4 specific verticals where we've had a large amount of experience. And those are, in order of experience, telco, retail, media and web. The telco model is a very substantial, very well filled out data model now. For our sins, we've been banished off doing telcos for many years, and we have a great deal of telco experience, and that experience has been put into that data model. We also have a great deal of experience in retail, and our business partner in Germany, which is called Keyword Consulting, specializes in retail, and they've been a client of ours for near 5 years now, and so we have learned a great deal from our experience with them and with many other retailers that we have dealt with over the years. In terms of media, we've done quite a number of media jobs around the world. I've personally done media jobs in Australia and the US. And of course, web is ubiquitous now, and everybody has a website. So there always has to be an element of the web in any mass market retail data warehousing solution. When we see interest in other areas, we will build more models. But our view of the world is that telco, retail, web and media, there are a great deal of companies out there that are in those businesses who could acquire and use our data models. So we see that it's best to be very broad in those areas without going into other areas of business. The most likely other area of business is, of course, healthcare, because healthcare is such a massive business, and there are no good healthcare data models out there currently. Healthcare has been a late adopter of business intelligence, and nobody has built a really good healthcare solution. And also, healthcare changes quite dramatically from one country to another. So it's difficult to build single data models which would take care of healthcare across a wide range of countries. So they're the four major verticals that we have. We have done other work in other areas, and we do have libraries of things that it is that we have done, but this is where we are focusing at the moment. How would you acquire said data models? Well, for large companies, and I mean 2 billion euros plus, these companies typically buy the data model as an intellectual property investment. So if you're a telephone company and you make 5 billion euros per year, the price of the data model is relatively insignificant compared to the value of being able to implement it across your telephone companies. So large companies purchase the data models for an as an IP investment, as a one-off purchase to gain access to all that experience, and it basically becomes a library of ideas, and it's priced in a similar fashion to how long it would take such a telephone company to develop such a thing if they allocated 2 or 3 people to do that job. Now, for sub 2 billion euro companies, we Instant Business Intelligence, offer monthly license charges which are structured to the published revenue for the company. And the published revenue breaks on various boundaries, which is on the next slide. So generally, if you're a plus 2 billion euro company, you'll acquire BI4ALL data models as an IP investment, the same way that you would put 2 or 3 people on a job for a year to come up with a similar data model, right? Because that's about how much time and effort it would take. Sub 2 billion euro companies, typically don't have those kind of people to do those kind of data models. And as you're getting into smaller companies, the 200 to 500 million euro companies, they simply don't have staff who can go away and design these models. And further, in the smaller companies, the value and leverage that they can get from a data warehouse is less, because they have fewer customers, less revenue, and then less leverage for making better decisions. So the smaller the company, the lower the price needs to be, and so we've introduced this monthly license charge regime. Now, generally, the IBI or the reseller of our product will customize and deliver your custom model for you. So you engage a company to do the design of your data warehouse, who might be IBI or one of our resellers, and they use our toolkit to build your data model. And what you get in the end is your data model, and you would pay a monthly license charge for that, or you may purchase it from the reseller. Generally, the reseller will support future customization of data models, and this is a change in our business direction. In the last 10 years, in implementing similar data models, we've implemented into a client, trained people in the client, and then left them to their own devices and moved on to the next customer. What has happened over the last 10 years, and this is not just an IBI experience, this is across the board, is that people have become more mobile in the companies that they work for. And companies are outsourcing more and more of their development work. So in the area of business intelligence, more and more large companies are hiring the Tatas, Wipros, IBMs of the world to build their data warehouse and data models, but the people who then build them are more mobile because they are an outsourced organization, and there has tended to be, over the last 10 or 15 years, more and more turnover in these large companies around the data warehousing business intelligence project. Yeah. Now, because of that more and more turnover, the people who know and understand the data models are turning over more and more rapidly, and what this has led to is a falling off of the quality and understanding of what's being done within a data model. So we've been thinking about this for quite some years because we've seen this over and over again over the last 10 years, and we think now that one way to counter this very high turnover is to have staff from our resellers be the people who will maintain and update the data models for you. Now, obviously, that is negotiable, and end user customers will have to sit down and talk to resellers or talk to us at IBI and discuss how it is you want to provide support and maintenance over the years of the data model being in place. Of course, for Europe, our reseller Keyword Consulting can provide that kind of support, and they have had very stable staff over the last 12 years. So what we are proposing is that because the data model is so important and it needs to be maintained and taken care of by people who understand it, and this high turnover in clients has adversely affected such maintenance and the quality of maintenance, we're offering an alternative to doing it the standard way. So we just want to let you know that through our acquisition methods. So list pricing. The list pricing for outright purchase is confidential, although it is widely known because we do talk about it with customers and we do talk about it with resellers. But for a video on our website, we're going to say that's confidential and you need to talk to us about the list price that's offered by us and our resellers. Monthly license charges are put in place for those organizations that are smaller than 2 billion euros. So, for example, if you're a mid-tier retailer in Europe, you may be making around 200 million euros or a little less as your top-line revenue. In which case, we've made BI4ALL extremely inexpensive, and it's 1,000 euros per month. And when we say monthly license charge, we mean payable 12 months in advance. So you pay your MLC at the beginning of the year. So 1,000 euros per month to have access to this kind of intellectual property is a rounding error, and we've made it cheap very deliberately to be able to get into that kind of marketplace. When the revenue is sub 500 million, the monthly license charge is 1.5 thousand, and up to 1 billion, the monthly license charge is 2,000 euros per month. Over 1 billion euros, the monthly license charge goes up to 2,500, and then over 2 billion euros, we would recommend the company consider an outright purchase. Yeah. So for smaller companies, what we're saying is that the cost of acquiring these data models and getting them installed is now significantly less than any other way of acquiring this kind of technology. So that's the pricing. Many customers want to know the pricing early on, or many prospects want to know the pricing early on. There's nothing better than putting the pricing up on the website. Of course, why buy BI4ALL? If you stop and think it's over 850 tables with 28,000 fields in it, of course, not all companies will use all components. If you're a retailer, you won't use the components for telco. So those top line numbers are just there to say to you, this is a very substantial data model. But the data model in a data warehousing environment is the foundation of the data warehouse. That data model lasts for a very long time, and building errors into the data model turns out to be a very expensive thing. And if you talk to any very experienced data warehousing consultant, they will tell you how important the data models are. So poor data models are one of the key causes of failures of BI projects, and the flavour and consistency of the data model needs to be sustained over time. What we have seen with increased turnover is that the people who are making changes to the data model tend to make changes that they like to use their own style, their own way of doing things, and this tends to degrade the data model over time. You would buy BI4ALL because learning on the job how to build data models when low-cost models are available is a big mistake. In the 90s, when there were no low-cost data models available, we had no choice but to build data models that were customized for each customer. And it was in the mid to late 90s that people started realizing there were design patterns to these data models, and then could start constructing relatively consistent data models to sell them as a data model. However, the data model market has never really taken off. There's never really been a large market for BI data models, as opposed to a large market for ERPs. The experience embedded in BI4ALL cannot be learned based on just a few projects. We have design templates and techniques for everything we have seen over many years, over many projects. The development and customization of BI4ALL, because it's delivered in an Excel workbook and not in an ER modeling tool, is about 5 times faster than an ER modeling tool. And we can also do things such as have 10 languages supported in the data model, things like that. So we sat down and thought about what's all the things that we would like to do in the ability to customize these data models, and we have picked features which aren't even supported by the ER tools. So the bottom line in buying BI4ALL is it's faster, cheaper, better and lower risk than trying to build a data warehouse data model by yourself. So the summary of this is, before we go to the summary, I want to just go to demonstration. So just to prove that BI4ALL is real, this is a documentation database, a beta documentation database. And if I scroll down here, you see some strangely named tables which you can ignore. But things like account close transaction. We can look at the columns in account close transaction. You see it has a primary key, a whole series of joined keys or lookup keys, and you see it has a series of data. Now the way that BI4ALL has been built is only the very common information is built into the model, but the key structures are built into the model. So for example, in this VF account close transaction, you'll have the transaction amount, the units and the timestamp, a reference back to the operational system, short description and a long description. And that's all the data that is included in this table. You would be expected to add the other fields of data for the particular type of account closes. The other things you have in each table as a standard is a table number, a row deleted from source indicator, a partitioning column, 3 parts thereof, and this was required for SQL Server 2005. You have a batch number to tell you which batch processed this record. You have a file cycle number to tell you which file cycle this record was processed in. A view number which tells you the view of the ETL subsystem that this record was processed by. You have a timestamp which tells you when this record was placed into the database or when it was updated. And you have a source system number which is an index back to which source system this record came from. Now, of course, in any particular table, data can come from many source systems. It can be updated by many different mappings, ETL mappings, and so these fields at the back of this example table are carried across all tables to give us a good level of auditability right across the data warehouse. So BI4ALL has been built with all the tables, all the auditability you would expect of a data warehouse already built into every table, and the design techniques for marrying that up with the ETL subsystem have already been thought about and created. So you have many of these types of tables. Now if we go back up here and we scroll down, we go here and we look at tables, we see 868 items now. And if we scroll down, we see that there are a great deal of fact tables, VF meaning fact. And then down here further we'll see VM, and we start to see things like VM address. So address is a very typical table, a key dimension table, address lines, suburbs, states, buildings, types, do I have access for letter delivery, things like that. And then the audit fields on the back, table number, source system number, etc. So I just wanted to give you a very short look at just a few tables in the database. Obviously, when we sit down and say there are 850 tables here, we could sit down and describe these tables for a great deal of time. In the drop-down box there is a link or a set of links, and those links take you to various information about the data models. So in summary, I just wanted to create a very high-level summarized presentation, as was asked for recently, to cover some of the highlights of interest, the extensiveness of the model, the areas it covers, base, telco, retail, web, and media, the acquisition methods of information or intellectual property purchase or monthly license charging, and then the pricing for the monthly license charging. And as I mentioned, more details in the links in the drop-down box. So I'd like to say thank you very much for watching this short presentation. I hope you found it useful. I hope you go on and read in greater detail about BI4ALL. We think it's a great idea. Obviously, we've spent a long time building this thing, and we'd like to make it available to as many customers as possible. Thank you very much for your time.